Every day it's the same thing. You open up the newspaper, there's stories about murder, war, violence. Every day it's the same thing. You turn on the television and watch the news, same thing. Murder, war, violence, every story. Who's the cause for all this ugliness in the world? Me? No, not me. I'm innocent. Is it you? That can't be you because everyone here is so good. Is it God? Is it Jesus? Maybe it is. I mean, God is the creator of all things. So if God doesn't want murder, war, violence, he could just stop it. And if I blame all the ills of the world on God, then that means I don't have to change because it's all his fault. Now, what's amazing about today's gospel reading coming out of the 7th chapter of Mark is that Jesus exonerates himself. He's going to clearly show us who is the cause of the ills of the world, and it turns out to be it is not him. So let's take a look at a section of today's gospel reading. This is going to be the 7th chapter, Mark, verse 15a, the first half of the 15th verse. It says there, he summoned, that's going to be a reference to Jesus, third person singular. He summoned the crowd again and said to them. You see, Jesus never liked teaching one-on-one because he thought that took too long. Jesus kind of liked the classroom setting. So Jesus liked the idea of one teacher, one professor teaching a lot of students. Gather a lot of people together, and that's what he does here. He summons the crowd together again because he taught them before. Now, Jesus is going to share with them a very important prerequisite to having a solid education. If you really want to learn, you have to do what verse 15b tells you to do. Let's take a look at that second half of the 15th verse, 7th chapter of Mark. There it is. Jesus got the group together. Then he says, hear me, all of you, and understand. You got to hear. You got to listen. What Jesus Christ is saying, become a receptacle for what I want to teach you. You see, if a student is willing to listen and to hear, they're probably going to understand. If a student decides not to listen, not to hear, they're really not going to learn. Malcolm Forbes once said that the purpose of education is to make a closed mind open. And that occurs only if you're willing to hear and to listen. Now Jesus has the stage set. He's got a group of people gathered together. He asks them, please, whatever you do, hear, listen, and then you'll learn. So we're all here this morning, all the disciples of Jesus. And this is a captive audience. So hopefully you're willing to hear and listen. Now we're going to learn about what Jesus Christ tells us. Let's go to verse 16 of the 7th chapter. And then Jesus says, nothing that enters one from the outside can defile that person. But the things that come out from within, those are the things that defile. And I say to myself, okay, Jesus, that makes sense. That which comes out of me defiles me. That which goes into me doesn't. But Jesus, I have to know more. Lay it out for me. Enunciate these items that defile. So Jesus, share with me more. I understand that point about what comes out of me is what defiles, but what exactly you're talking about? And he shares that with us in verse 21, 20, 22, and 23 of the 7th chapter of Mark. Let's take a look. And then Jesus says, from within people, from their hearts come evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly. All these things come within and they defile. Now, when you look at that list, ask yourself the question, but don't raise your hand. Have you ever committed any one of those dubious items? Any one of them? Or are you capable of committing any one of those items? And you might be saying to yourself, well, I'm not sure what licentiousness is. I don't know if I've ever committed it or not. Well, I looked that word up. And licentiousness is the license to ignore. It is the license to be ignorant. You might know someone like that. It might be you. The person that walks around and says, oh, no one said anything to me. I don't know anything about it. Ooh, I don't know. You see, when you become an adult, then your job is to find out, to learn, to ask, to understand. So licentiousness is when a person just allows themselves, they got license, just act like they have no idea what's going on. Now, psychologists tell us that every human being, so we're all human beings here this morning, every human being is capable of committing every one of those acts. Every one of them, without exception. We can commit them. Now, you know, as you look at the list, whether or not you've committed one or two, all of them up to this point. Only you know that. God knows that, your relationship with Him. But when you read a story about murder, you watch a story about murder on television, you might say to yourself, I will never commit murder in my life. You will only be able to successfully say you never committed murder if you haven't about 2 seconds before you officially die. Because you are capable. We are all capable of doing that. You know, in a moment of intense, angry passion, of rage and anger, that's possible. You know what's been going through your mind? When someone really destroys and hurts a member of your family, you know what you feel inside. When someone does something incredibly cruel and corruptive to a son or daughter of yours, you know what you feel inside. You might say to yourself, I got to get rid of those thoughts. I didn't know I could think like that. But you can. We all can. And when we commit any one of those acts, or several of those acts, or all of those acts, that's what makes this world an ugly place. And we're capable of doing that, according to psychologists. There was this mother and father. They had this little boy, and this cold winter night, they put the little boy to sleep. They're down in a computer room, and they're thinking about summer vacation, where they should go on summer vacation. So they got the computer on, and they're going through all the different places they might decide to travel for summer vacation. Great thing to think about in the dead of winter. As they're going through all the places they might want to travel and visit in the summertime, the power goes out. The computer shuts off, and they're so disappointed. They were enjoying just being together, talking about summer vacation. And the wife said to the husband, oh, not all is lost. So she lights this candle, and she said, you know, up in our son's room, on his dresser, he has one of these. Here's the globe of the world. Let's take the candle and walk up to his room. He's sleeping, and we'll get into his room and take the globe of the world and come back down to our computer room and spin the world around and continue to look where we might travel for our summer vacation. Great idea, said the husband. So they go up into the son's room, and the wife has the candle. She guides the husband up there, and they get into the room. Little boy's sleeping. The dad walks over the dresser, and he takes that big globe of the world, and he has it in his hand, and he's tiptoeing out of his son's bedroom. But the dad, a little clumsy, he knocks over some furniture. The little boy wakes up, and he looks at his mom and dad. He said, Mom and Dad, what are you doing with my world? Oh, that's a great question. What are you doing with my world? See, the type of world we're going to have tomorrow is predicated on a type of world we have today. There's a lot of people spend all their time trying to figure out what their neighbor does that is wrong rather than focusing on what they should do that is right. They say that the children, the youth, are our leaders of tomorrow. My four-altar service and every other young person here, they're the leaders of tomorrow. That's great, but tomorrow's the future. So I ask you this, if they are the leaders of tomorrow, who are the leaders of today? Any idea? Guys, come on. If the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, and I heard that when I was a kid, you're the leader of tomorrow. That sounds like a lot of responsibility to me. It's a big thing to lay on someone who's 11 years old. But you hear that all the time. But adults say that is a way to thrust responsibility under the shoulders of the young ones for tomorrow. But if they're the leaders of tomorrow, who are the leaders of today? Adults are. All of you who are adults, who consider yourself an adult. Now what I want to do for just a moment is just talk to the adults at Mass this morning. So the young ones, if you guys want, you could go to sleep. But you might want to listen to this, because this is a question I'm going to want my servers and all the other young people ask their mom and dads. The adults at Mass this morning, you are currently responsible for the world right now. You are the leaders of the world now, they the future, tomorrow. Your son or daughter has a right to walk up to you today, sometime today or tomorrow, and walk up to you and say, Mom and Dad, what are you doing with my world? What did you do with it? This is the legacy when I read about murder, war, violence today. This is the legacy with a big smile on your face you're going to hand me for tomorrow and say you're the leaders of tomorrow. So you could pass off current responsibility and the future hope and promise? Does that sound like a right thing to do? No. What legacy are you going to give your son or daughter? Jesus Christ is saying in verse 21, 22, 23, 7th chapter Mark, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, envy, licentiousness, we can all commit every one of those. We have the ability to do that. Adults. The type of world we have tomorrow, we're going to give to these guys, is based upon the world you're currently forming right now. It's your and my responsibility. We are in charge of this world. Are you satisfied with it? Are you happy with what's going on? Are you content with what's going on? Because if you are, then that and more is what you're going to give your son or daughter. Is that going to make you sleep comfortable tonight? It's your responsibility. You're the adults. You're the leaders now. Hopefully. Because for any mom or dad here, I have no idea what your answer is going to be. But it should keep you up tonight. If your son or daughter walks up to you sometime today and seriously looks at you because they realize the world that's going on now is the one you're going to give them to live tomorrow. They say to you, Mom and Dad, what are you doing with my world? What answer are you going to give them? That's your responsibility to give them some answer. What are you doing with their world?